Good morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with the daily technical updates. It is Tuesday, the 30th of July, and today we'll start with CrowdStrike that released this faulty or erroneous update on their software last week that caused a lot of breakdowns in communication, a lot of disruption around the world. And now Delta has announced that they will sue the company for compensation. They had to cancel thousands of flights since then. And it is now, the CrowdStrike is trading down to around $245 pre-market, and from a technical point of view we have some support at 238. Let's see if that holds. If it closes below, well, then there is a risk of further selling pressure. There's no amount that has been mentioned from Delta Airlines possible lawsuit. Maybe let's see if they come up with a compromise. Anyway, let's move on to the overall market. It was fairly quiet yesterday. S&P closed almost unchanged after trading up a little bit in during the session. We could see a little bit of a bounce, possibly 5,500. We have this little gap here that will be key the next couple of days. 5,506, I would say. If it starts trading above that, well, maybe it can close this little gap here, but let's see if it can actually do that. We are in a correction downtrend, support at 5,375 and 5,314. Nasdaq 100 looks a little bit worse, I would say, but it is has bounced a little bit from the minor support. I would say it's a little bit stronger here, 18,768 and 18,654. We had a little bit gap here back in June. We had the 100 moving average giving some support, but now there's resistance at 19,210. If it does close above that, well, then the next one 19,472. But we are in a downtrend, a negative sentiment, and I think we will see a market slowly slide lower in coming days. But well, actually, maybe it will take a little bit longer, but I think it will be a little bit cold range bound. But this is a big week in terms of earnings and macro news, so a lot of stuff could happen. We have Microsoft coming out. I think it's after market tonight, so keep an eye on that. That can really move something. We have the EUROSTOXX 50. 5,812 seems to be an important point. We did spike down below 47.75. Are we in a downtrend? Yes, we are in a downtrend. Lower low, lower high, lower low. Will it follow through with the sell-off yesterday, where we actually took everything back? Well, then we could see a downwards pressure towards 4,700. The DAX index is a little bit indecisive and very hard to read at the moment because you see extreme volatility. And even if we look at the future, it's also a little bit, I mean, it did through this kind of you can say triangle-like pattern, and then it worsened, and so it's really frustrating DAX at the moment. So and also even the range bound is tough. However, it didn't close below the clouds, and you see the cloud seems to be giving some support here at 18,150 level. So that seems to be the important level. But if it closes below, well, then 18,000 and also 17,948 key support for that downtrend to be established towards 7,600, 7,500 level. We have at the Amsterdam index that bounced from 892 when we last spoke last week, caught in this range here. Either it breaks down below 892 or it must get back above 920 for uptrend to resume. CAC 40, well, in a downtrend despite this bottom and reversal candle here, so that's going to be interesting the next few days. Will it actually be? I mean, we have this spike up here. This is a hammer-like pattern, and it could be a bottom and reversal, but it really needs to get back above 77.25 for upside potential. And we have the moving averages actually being very bearish, indicating that the upside potential is quite limited. If RSI breaks back or closes below 40, I think we'll see a downwards pressure towards a 7300. Swiss market bounce back from the 55 moving average and above the cloud here, the automotive cloud, and we are back about 12,151. So as long as it stays above that, I would say we are I'm fairly positive. However, divergence on the RSI indicating that we should see a correction lower. And looking at the weekly chart, we can see, well, it looks a little bit stretched at the moment, but there is room up to 12,560 in the medium term, but it really needs to take out these peaks here from a few weeks back. Euro dollar, kind of volatile late last week and especially yesterday with the massive sell-off here, indicating we could see a further selling pressure down to the 61.8 retracement at 107.73. But as you can see here, it actually bounced off just about just around 108. If it takes out the lows from yesterday, expect a sell-off down to 107.73. Otherwise, we could see the bounce continuing, and your dollar is likely to resume uptrend eventually, even if it spikes down to that level here. The euro sterling, seems my system a little bit slow this morning, to apologize about that. We had the euro sterling spiking up to the 61.8 retracement at 84.55, forming a kind of a top and reversal pattern. I think it will resume downtrend, but if it takes out yesterday's peak, well, then there's potential up to $85 here. If it moves back below 83.95, expected downtrend to resume with a potential down to 83.40. We have cable spike below the 50% correction. There is room down to the 61.8 at 127.79. I'm not quite sure we'll get there, but if we do, I think we will see a bounce, strong bounce. We have the 55 moving average coming up, also giving some support, and there is a potential higher for sterling dollar above 130.5. But we just need this correction to be done by. Dollar yen, and remember, Bank of Japan is expected to come out later. When, I don't know if it will be this morning or tomorrow, but let's see. We have a bounce of the 151.85 support, likely to reach the 38.2 retracement, 155.76, but there should be room up to the 61.8 retracement, but there's some overhead resistance here, to be honest. We have also, if we move that one down, we actually have some around 157.5, 157.86, and we also have the 55 moving average coming down. So there's a bit of a pressure there. Also bouncing in euro yen, just above its key support area at 164, 164.60, 65. We should get up to 168.83, but there should also be potential up to just around 170, where we have the rising trend line here. That is now a resistance. I'm not quite sure we'll get up there at the 61.8, at least not anytime soon. Aussie yen, also a strong bounce, and we're back above the rising trend line. There should be room up to around 103, 103.10 in coming days. But let's see, Bank of Japan could of course change that picture with their expected announcement. We have the sterling yen also bouncing off the rising trend line here, and I think I'll just remove this one. There should be room up to around 200.5. Potentially up to 202.5, 203.5, but there's some strong resistance in this area here, so I don't think we'll move higher than that. So let's remove this trend line. It's obsolete now. Aussie dollar, Also very strong bounce, but there was the only support that actually was there was the cloud support, as you can see here. And I use the cloud support as a guideline, not as the strongest supporter. But if they have these very flat or horizontal lines or edges here, then I count them or take them a little bit more into account. So I think we'll see Aussie dollar bouncing to around the 66.25, which is the 38.2 retracement, but then there will be some strong resistance, but there should be room higher if it does close back above the cloud. Dollar Canada has pushed up to the 161.8 retracement, and I think we will see a correction here in the coming days, maybe down to 138, 137.85 before the next leg up. But we are ripe for a little bit of a correction. We can see that the RSI is still in a positive sentiment with no divergence, indicating we are likely to see higher levels on the dollar Canada pair. The Euro Swiss bounced after dipping below the 786 retracement, almost all the way down to 95, but I think we'll see a correction here. And if we just add a Fibonacci just from this sell-off here, well, then we should see a push up to around the 63.30 level, which is the 61.8 retracement. Dollar Swiss, we have downtrend, as you can see, lower low, lower high, lower low, and possibly lower high. If it is getting rejected at the steep falling trend line here, then expect another sell-off down to around 87.5, 87.30. We are in a negative sentiment, but as you can see, there's actually divergence on the RSI. You can see the RSI levels are not declining anymore, they are actually rising. So maybe we are a little bit short term, at least in exhaustive mode, but I wanted to move back above 89.25 before I say, okay, that was it, at least short term, and we could see a push higher for dollar Swiss. The dollar index back above 104.28 resistance, could push up to 61.8 retracement at 104.86, and then I think it is it, and then we'll see a downtrend resuming if that scenario plays out. Moving on to gold that spiked twice below the 61.8 retracement at 23.66, just below the 55 moving average and touching the lower part of the cloud here, bouncing back. So now we're trading around 23.88. It is a little bit indecisive at the moment, undecided. It can't really make up its mind, but I think it will bounce higher here in the coming days and weeks. However, there is still room to the 786 retracement at 23.34. So keep an eye on that, where we also have the 100 moving average coming up. Still in a positive sentiment, and if RSI moves back above 60, well, then expect new highs on the gold spot here. The there we have the silver 786 retracement at 27.40, seems to be bouncing, finding some support, but we are in a negative sentiment. We are in a negative sentiment on the RSI. If it moves back above 28.60, well, then I think uptrend will last until around 30. Back above 30, expect higher highs. However, if it takes out the lows here from yesterday at 27.30, expect a sell-off down to around 26. On copper bounce wasn't that great, as kind of expected. I think we could see another dip to maybe 400 to 396, maybe around that level, and then I think that will be the exhaustive move, and then we'll see a fairly strong bounce towards 425. But let's see in the coming days. On the energy side, we have the if I can find it, there we are, the WTI oil that has really been hammered over the past Friday and Monday when I was away. So now we are at the 786 retracement at just above $75. We are in a negative sentiment. We are in a bearish trend. There is potential down to around the 72.5 the previous lows here back from June, so it's not unlikely we will dip back down to there. It really needs to get back above the 78.60 just to neutralize this, and it doesn't really change the trend, but it would neutralize the downtrend. But I don't think we will see that playing out, that scenario. We have a Brent crude oil testing the 786 retracement, also just below $79. We have also here downtrend, of course, with the potential down to around 77, 76.85. Looks fairly heavy at the moment. The US 10-year Treasury yields seems to be testing the lows here from last week. We actually had this bottom and reversal pattern. It is still in play, but it is not. It is under pressure, and if it takes it out, if we do see a close below 413, well, expect the US 10-year yields dropping to around 4%. All right, that's all for today. Have a nice day and happy trading.